Alright, we're going to start with just a basic bread dough. So we have 4 cups of a plain flour, Now, in here we have 2 tablespoons of skim milk powder, 1 tablespoon of dry yeast, 2 teaspoons of sugar, and 2 teaspoons of salt. So that's all our dry ingredients. And then to that we're going to add a tablespoon of oil. Now for this one I'm just using a light olive oil. You don't really want to use an extra virgin, there's too much flavour in it. Just a light olive oil will do the job. It's about a tablespoon of that. And then we mix it up. Now the initial mix is just to combine the dry ingredients and the oil together, just to get them homogeneous, and then we're adding in the warm water. It's 1 1/4 cups of warm water. Just the sort of body temperature water, and we're just going to keep an eye on it and add any more water if the dough looks a little bit dry, which I added another couple more tablespoons. Okay, we're just going to keep going and start the kneading process in the mixer, just to start getting it together and stretching the gluten out, and then after that we're going to turn it out onto the bench and knead it up. So just flour down the bench. And put the dough there and then knead it by hand. Just lots of turning, stretching, tearing. We're just stretching out the gluten in the bread to help it to develop. Okay, a little bit about the history of Vegemite. It was made by a chemist who worked for the founder of the original company, who put out a competition to name it, and the winner was picked by his daughter as Vegemite. Now, it was originally made from used brewer's yeast. That was the original material for it. Okay, we want to get it so it's got that little bit of spring back to it. And that means our gluten has been developed. And then we're just going to throw it into an oiled bowl. A little bit of oil on the dough, just to help stop it drying out. And some plastic over the top. Alright, so that's off to a warm place, and it's going to sit there until it doubles up in size, and then we'll come back. Oh, folks, there it is, doubled in size, so that's all ready for us to use. Flour up the rolling pin. Okay, now we're just going to roll that out into a big rectangle. Now, since 1937, Vegemite has been recognised by the British Medical Association as a healthy type of food. It's high in B group vitamins and nutritionally rich. It was given to Australian soldiers during World War II as part of their rations, so the vitamins would help keep them well in the trenches and not getting sick. And because it was being given to the soldiers, it was rationed back here in Australia during that time. Okay, now the important part. This for Aussies is the way to a person's heart. We start eating it as little kids, and probably you need to eat it as a little kid to get the taste for it. But on this dish is an excellent introduction dish to Vegemite. Now, Vegemite's most famous advertising started back in the radio days with a jingle, Happy Little Vegemites, which actually became a TV ad once we got TV during the Olympics in 1956 here in Australia. Generally it goes a lot thicker on here than you would on toast or something like that, because when you cook it down you lose some of the flavour out of it. Now lastly, the original owner, Fred, amalgamated with Kraft Foods in 1926 to make the Kraft Walker Food Company, which later on in 1952 Kraft bought out the Australian side and made it the Kraft Food Company. Okay, for cheese today, I'm using some tasty cheese, what every other country would know as a cheddar cheese. It's a matured cheddar. And also some grated mozzarella because I've got it sitting around. Mozzarella's always a good one for when you're cooking. It's not super fatty when it melts down. Okay, next up we're gonna roll it. Let me just pull you back to the edge. Okay, so we want to have a fairly tight roll on it. Make sure that cheese is nice and even. Alright, and we have a baking paper lined roll, line sheet. And with our handy dandy pastry knife, we're going to cut it about 1.5 inches. I just get put straight onto the baking tray. You want them close enough that they're going to grow together, but not so close that there's no room for them to grow. Okay, I'm just going to put my heating pad down on the bench. Put the tray up on top of that. And just loosely cover with a cling wrap. Alright, we'll let those proof and then we'll be back soon when they're going to be ready to go in the oven. While they're proofing, I'm going to preheat the oven up to 220 degrees. That's Celsius, and I will post up the temperature in Fahrenheit because I didn't look it up today. Oh, folks, as you can see, they've proofed up and they're ready to go in the oven now. So I'm going to put them in there for about 10-15 minutes. Just keep an eye on them. Once they're golden brown, they're ready to come back out again. So off we go. Alright folks, there we are, fresh out of the oven. Vegemite and Cheese Scrolls. I'll get back to you in a second when these are cooled a little, because this cheese is actually lava hot at the second and I don't want to burn my mouth off. So back in a sec. Alright guys, time for the taste test. Grab the little one, the chef's one. And that is absolutely delicious. Any Aussie would love it. Any American's probably going to be weirded out by it, but that is the stuff that is the way to an Australian's heart.